Hey, it's Joe Amoia, founder and creator of GPSforLove.com. Got a quick question for you. Do you love courageously or do you love recklessly? Now, I know you're sitting there going, Joe, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, if that's you, you definitely have to watch this video because there's a huge difference between the two. So let me give you a little parameter of how it kind of works. See, loving courageously and recklessly is kind of like wanting to jump out of an airplane. Okay, you can do it courageously. All right, I believe that jumping out of an airplane takes a tremendous amount of courage. It's something that's on my bucket list. Haven't done it yet, but I'm definitely going to do it. But before you do that, you want to make sure that you're prepared. Okay, you have everything you need and that you're working with the best people. So ultimately it will lead to the experience you really want. So you've got to make sure that the person driving the plane that you're going to jump out of knows how to drive a plane. They've been doing it a while and they know exactly what they're doing. You want to know that your parachute is packed correctly and that you're using the right materials and that you're jumping from the right altitude and you know when to pull the cord and when not to pull the cord. Okay, so that you're kind of prepared. And then when you go and take the act, it takes that leap of faith because there's that part of you that says, hey, this might not ever open. I might crash. I might die. But if I don't take this leap, I'm never going to have the experience I really want. That's what loving courageously is like. Loving recklessly is like, you know what? I'm just going to do it and it's going to work out. But you don't do your research. You don't do your homework. You don't pack your chute correctly. Okay, you don't have no idea when to jump, when not to jump, when to pull the cord, when not to pull the cord. And as a result, you jump out thinking everything's going to be okay, and then you go splat and you die. And it doesn't lead to the result you want. And then after that, what most people who love recklessly do is they blame everybody and everything. Well, it's the guy who was driving the plane didn't tell me how to go. It was the parachute school. It was the parachute company. It was God's fault because the winds were blowing too fast. There's always some kind of excuse. Okay, and it's just not going to lead to the result you want. So I'm going to give you some parameters that really will help you to understand if you are currently loving courageously or recklessly. And please understand this is not meant to judge, but to simply shine light to help you understand what needs to happen so you can create that relationship you desire and deserve. So let's get right into it. Loving courageously. See, when you love courageously, you have clear standards and boundaries. You know if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, there's things that you will and will not tolerate. And you're willing to hold those boundaries, not because you're picky, not because you're too good, but you realize in order to have a great relationship, you need these clear boundaries and standards. The second part of loving courageously is that you're not afraid to trust and be vulnerable. See, taking that leap of faith is like jumping out of an airplane. You've got to learn to trust. You've got to learn to be vulnerable. But when you love courageously, you realize that a guy must earn the right for you to trust him. A guy must earn the right for you to be vulnerable. Brene Brown writes a great book called Daring Greatly. She talks about healthy vulnerability. It's about how to be vulnerable to the right guy for the right reasons, to make sure that he earns your trust. He earns your ability to be vulnerable to him. It's very, very key. It's very important to loving courageously. Now, the third part to loving courageously is that you're not willing to settle. You're willing to walk away from the mediocre relationships. Not because you've got this big ego and you think your poop doesn't smell, but you know deep down that you deserve a great guy and a great relationship, and you're not willing to settle. And the reason you're not willing to settle is because ultimately when you love courageously, you're not afraid of being alone. You realize that you'd much rather be alone than in another crappy, mediocre toilet bowl relationship. So these are some of the parameters of loving courageously. And if you're doing these things, big thumbs up, keep doing it. You're on your way to having that great relationship. Now, the flip side of this, loving recklessly. When you love recklessly, you jump into relationships too soon. You have sex way too soon before you even know a guy. You don't make a guy earn the right and show you that he deserves the right to get into your pants. You just give it away. You know, the old expression, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Well, it's not about playing games, but it's about making a guy show up and show you that he's looking for a relationship. He's not just looking to get laid. And that's really, really key. And it's really important if you're not going to love recklessly. And the flip side of that, when you love recklessly, is you simply stay in relationships way too long. You know the relationships aren't serving you. You know you're not getting what you need. You know you're not being treated with the love, honor, and respect you desire and deserve. But you're really good at making excuses. You're really coming up with rationalizing, saying why he was never loved the way he was. He's had a bad childhood. He's going through a rough time, yada, yada, yada. All those excuses that you use, you know what I'm talking about. And as a result, you just stay in relationships way too long. You think it's going to change. You think it's going to magically get better. And most importantly, you end up bullshitting yourself and you waste time and you never get to the relationship you really want. Another indicator of loving recklessly is that, and this is a big one, you don't feel happy without a man in your life. So you need a man to validate your self-worth and self-esteem. You feel if there's a guy isn't in your life, you're not good enough. And it's simply sad, and it's not true. And it's one of the things that makes women jump, and men do the same thing, jump into relationships way too soon or stay too long. Your presence, your happiness isn't denoted by the presence of a man in your life. When you can get to the point in your life where you're happy with who you are and where you're at, and you don't need a man, but you want a man, then you're absolutely ready for a relationship. And the last sign of loving recklessly is that you ignore the red flags. You make excuses for them. They're there, but you say, they're not that bad. I can live with it. I can deal with it. And you make excuses because all of the other good things that he does. Well, I would hope to believe that you would never be in a relationship with anybody who didn't treat you somewhat good. Hopefully you've got a little self-worth and self-esteem. But it's not about someone who just gives you, what you need part of the time. It's about being with a guy who consistently gives you everything you need in order for you to be happy and fulfilled in that relationship. And so, I know this is another one of those big, heavy videos, but here at GPS for Love, we're not about fluff, okay? We're about real life, practical tips and strategies and understanding what it really takes to be the person you need to be to attract the guy who's going to help you have the relationship you desire and deserve. And so when you learn to live courageously and a guy sees that, you not only become more attractive as a woman, but you also become more attractive as a lifetime partner. Because the men who are looking for relationships, that's what they're looking for. They don't want the women who love recklessly, who just want a man by their side, who will take any guy who comes along. They want that special woman who knows who she is, who's not afraid to be vulnerable, not afraid to open up and trust him, because that's what makes us guys feel more like men. Knowing that a woman is giving us her heart, and as just like in the knights in with the shining armor, we want to be there to protect and take care of her, because that's what makes us feel good as men. So, I know I threw a lot at you. So I want you to go back and I want you to revisit this video, really look at these, and then at the end, take some mirror time. Really ask yourself, if you had to get really honest, up until now, have you been loving courageously or have you been loving recklessly? And if you're loving courageously, awesome, keep going. I know that the guy is going to show up when that time is right for you. If you're loving recklessly, I want you to ask yourself why. Which of these things are you doing? And then really take some time and really explore those things, because that's what's going to help you grow and be the woman you need to be so that you can create that relationship you really want. So love to hear from you. Go ahead, put your questions, comments, and feedbacks in the box below. I'll see you next time. As always, an honor, privilege to be with you. Much love.